But
Yeah.
I'm curious. This idea of focus, is it mainly just that the entrepreneurs, back to that idea of focus here, is it that they perceive of themselves as indispensable? Is it that they can't be bothered to slow things down to hire and train? What is it about the entrepreneur that says, "Oh, I can do it myself. If it's going to be, it's up to me," as the old saying goes.
The reason people believe that is that it has been true for so long.
Hmm.
The reality is when we start companies, if it is to be, it's up to me. There is no alternative. You
That's
can't
right.
start a company day one, have a team 100% in place that you can trust to do it exactly the way you would do it. That doesn't happen. It's not the nature of human psychology. You have to build up to that. So the problem is we buy into the lie that that's the way it always has to be, and we don't think about, is there an alternative here, and what am I doing long term? But think about it this way: if you built a building, some sort of structure on some land, and you built one way in and no way out, what would everybody call that type of building? A jail. You would call it a
Yeah.
prison. It would be a dungeon
Hmm.
because there's no way out. Businesses are built the same way, unfortunately. Most people start a business and they build a way in. They set up their LLC, they get their formation docs, they might have a business partner, they get some loans, they get an office space, and they start and like, we're in business. And then you ask them 6 months from now, 7 months from now, 8 months from now, okay, now you're in business. What's the plan long term? What do you mean? What's the plan long term? Like, is there any way out of this in 10 years, 20 years? What are you aiming for? I don't care. I'm just going to do this. That's a dungeon. And you will
Hmm.
end up being the one tortured. You will be chained to that desk forever. You might make more money than you did in the corporate world. And frankly, most entrepreneurs end up making more money than they did in the corporate world. But here's the thing: you have taken on significantly more risk. And for what? Just a few
Hmm.
extra shekels? That's not worth it. Where at least if I had a job somewhere, the risks, while still present, because those jobs can, as mine did, could go away at any moment without warning. But there's this perceived safety in that. Where in entrepreneurship, you're taking all the risk. You have to understand that if you're going to make more money, there better be some commensurate benefits with it. And that should be the fact that the money can come in without you having to be there.
That's right. That's where I'm totally fine with the entrepreneur being 10x, 100x the income that the staff of that business might receive, because there had to be a reward for the risk that went into
Yeah.
starting that business. And sure, I think there's reasonable compensation to every employee. If you don't pay your employees well enough, they're going to go find somewhere where they're better treated and earn what they're worth, right? But
Hmm.
there's an absolute, that's part of the reward, you might say, is the returns you might get in the profits from that potential business if you focus on it. And I think going back to the very beginning of this episode, you really brought this idea of focus to my attention. Thank you for that again. There's a quote that says something like, you don't need 12 baskets to diversify your funds. What you need to do is put all your funds in one basket and then watch that basket. Like, pay close attention to what goes on in that basket. People
Yeah.
talk about diversification as if it's a truism that you'll automatically succeed if you, quote, diversify. And that can be true with your finances and your portfolio, and it can be true with your businesses or your time. But if you are always diversified, that's called multitasking. And there's plenty of research that shows that you're not that successful. In fact, your brain isn't very good at multitasking. And I'd say the same is true with our portfolios too. This idea of diversification, even Warren Buffett says that it's just diversification is just insurance against ignorance. That's what he calls it. So, what if instead of putting all your money in 50 different index funds and you have no idea what any of them are doing and they're all riding along on the same truck that might go off the cliff if the market crashes tomorrow anyway? What if you poured all of your finances into something that was predictable, guaranteed, a sure path to success? You focused. What does focus stand for again?
Follow one course until successful.
What if your financial course was contractually guaranteed to succeed, and you knew that before you even got started? Am I
Certainly would
right?
make it easier, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
sure would make it easier. How much of your financial attention would you give to that, right? So you kind of see where I'm going with this. There's a similarity between determining your focused attention on your business and the bank on yourself concept, which I know you're a client and you're a participant and a part of the revolution with the bank on yourself strategy. Here's my question. If I poured all of my attention, financial and otherwise, into a bank on yourself designed policy, rather than 50 different index funds that I can't access for my business, if I had all or most of my net worth pouring into this warehouse for my wealth and it was liquid and accessible, how might that help aid me in my business as I'm starting a business, trying to grow a business, pay attention to my one business rather than diversifying my attention on 50 different index funds? I guess my question is, how does Bank on Yourself with its features and functions help me succeed in my business entrepreneur ventures?
Well, I think there's a bigger psychological issue we could talk about that relates to this that I don't think you and I have ever talked about before. But what causes stress for us in life is too many open cycles at any one time. And an open cycle is described as any event, task, or thing that has to be done that you're aware of, that you know you got to do something. So think about it this way. If I could grab a book here to illustrate. If I get, this is a small book. The Science of Getting Rich was a great book, by the way. It's a very thin book. And this book is called Systemology, and it's a little bit thicker, as you can see. It's a little bit thicker book. Okay, if you can imagine for a minute that everything you have to do, all your open cycles, which would include investing. So investing your money, which is what we're talking about. Investing, running your business, taking care of your family, taking care of your health, church obligations, your faith, whatever. You add all those things up. Got to do your taxes, got to get your oil changed in your car. You got to start mowing the grass because it's March and it's going to start before you too long. If you wrote every single open cycle down on one piece of paper and then bound it into a book, how thick would your book be? Now, the thicker the book, the more stress you're going to actually feel in life. That is a truism. It's a psychological reality. The deal is some of us feel we can have a thick book like this and feel like other people who start feeling stressed with a thin book. My wife doesn't handle stress very well, doesn't handle as good as me. Like she handles it pretty normally, but I'm pretty good. I can have a very thick book before I start realizing. The reason I'm bringing all this up is that investing and what you're going to do for what we call as retirement, which I don't believe in, but everybody would understand what I mean by that. But what we're looking at, retirement, investing, what we want to save for the future, those are open cycles. So if you've got money in crypto and you've got money in real estate, you've got money in stocks, you've got money in T-bills, you got money, like whatever, just list it. Those are all open cycles. They don't add pages to your book. Where the Bank on Yourself thing, if you get all of your money put in one place, that you, as you said, contractually is guaranteed to do X, Y, and Z, I've just eliminated a whole lot of other open cycles. So what did that do to me? It lowers my stress.
Lowers the stress, yeah.
So Bank on Yourself can lower your stress in that method, in that manner, if that makes sense.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we didn't even touch on the idea that not only have you solved the problem, quote unquote, of needing to have cash ready for retirement, quote unquote, what that word means, but you now have liquid access to that cash all along the way to help you with the business, the lemonade stand that you're trying to run and hopefully exit someday. What advice would you have for folks if they didn't take action? This is the last time they're going to hear your voice. What would you want to make sure they hear? And then hopefully they will take action. Where can they find you and how can they learn more from you?
Well, so what I want to say, if this is the last time you'd ever hear me talk, I would say, what do you want? What do you want? Not today, but what do you want? Like, what are you trying to aim for? What is it you're trying to get? If what you're doing today is interfering with what you want, then you're not doing it right. So if you say, well, I want to have quality time with my family. I want to have I want my kids to grow up and love me and respect me. I want to have grandchildren who want to come hang out with me. I want to have a comfortable life where I don't have to ask money permission to do anything. That's, by the way, one of my goals. If that's what you want, then what are you doing today? Well, if you're working 60 hours a week, then you're interfering with what you want. You say, well, it's going to provide a better life in the future. Well, you know what? Your kid doesn't care about the future. Your kid cares about today. Your wife doesn't care about the future. She cares about today. We've got to start doing what do we want? We got to do today what will help us get there. And that could apply financially, spiritually. It could apply relationally, emotionally, psychologically. What do you want? So I would say, if that's what this is the last time you hear me, what do you want? And start working towards that. Now, if you want to get in touch with me, all you got to do is Google The Real Jason Duncan. You can find me anywhere. It's been my pleasure.